Greetings everyone, my beautiful viewership you. Welcome to another game review. This time it is about Yakuza 0 for the PC. Yakuza 0 is the first game in terms of story in the Yakuza series, also known as the Like a Dragon series. And I know that in Japanese, Yakuza means like a dragon. Yakuza 0 was actually the 11th game in the series that was released. I played it on the PC. I used an Xbox One controller. So, what is Yakuza 0? It is, in essence, a crime melodrama set in Japan with a very Japanese influence because it's made by Japanese people, and there are just certain things that culturally make more sense to them. We're not focused on that because the broad story and the activities in the game can be understood by people who understand English and games in 3D. So what is Yakuza 0? It is a story-heavy 3D brawler game, beat 'em up, largely. So imagine if Double Dragon or Final Fight or Scott Pilgrim vs. the World or River City Ransom grew up focused on being a crime drama in a 3D environment and had a very strong emphasis on being an interesting story. That is basically Yakuza 0. Now, mind you, I played this and my clear time was somewhere around 36 hours. My clear percent was somewhere around 23-24%. I did not do everything because the story was the most engaging part for me. I was brought into this game at the recommendation of Pro Jared because earlier this year, 2023 to my understanding, he released a review on Yakuza 0. He praised it, and I was curious, so I gave it a fair chance over the summer and just beat it over the past week. So, let's just say this. Yakuza 0, gameplay-wise, is about the two protagonists. Majima, he's the guy with the eye patch, and Kiryu, he's the guy without the eye patch. I generally found gameplay to be more interesting with Majima because very soon after you gain control of him, starting in Chapter 3, he gets a bat, and a baseball bat with infinite durability, so that's what you're going to be using most of the game. And you're probably going to be using the same one or two combos most of the game with him, whereas with Kiryu, I did mostly that. For the final chapter and for certain especially difficult fights, I pulled out weapons, and most weapons in this game have durability, which is why I saved them. So I beat things up with umbrellas, swords, and the occasional lightsaber or gun. So, pros about Yakuza 0, for me, the story is the main draw. It has a variety of things to do. So, if you want to take a break from the generally serious crime drama, you can, for example, play Mahjong, or the Chinese version of chess, or you can play pool, or you can play darts, or you can race slot cars, or you can just beat people up, or a bunch of other stuff that I'm probably not thinking about here because I did most minigames once and then stopped caring because the story was more interesting to me. And so, yes, the gameplay does get repetitive because it is 17 chapters overall, and it's a lot of doing very similar button combos. Maybe if you want to get really heavily into trying out every style, maxing every style, grinding out cash to improve yourself in every style, it gets more interesting. But I play on hard from the start to the finish because I wanted to be able to finish the game and get the so-called full experience. And okay, there, I did it. In terms of negatives, main negatives, you don't start with all of your fighting styles, you don't start with all of your moves, so it's pretty restrictive starting out. And there are times when I just wanted to play as the other character, but for story reasons I couldn't. Because in this game, You play two characters. You play two chapters as Kiryu, then two as Majima, two as Kiryu, two as Majima, and it goes back and forth until the final chapter, when you can alternate between the two characters for their respective story beats, and you basically have two games in one with parallel stories, and the characters do interact mostly indirectly based on the story, and I don't want to spoil anything more than I already have. Otherwise, in terms of main negatives, this is a long game, and it gets repetitive. It gets repetitive, it gets repetitive. And I know that the side activities are meant to make the game feel better, but most of the time I was just interested in the story, and I wanted to progress the story. So yeah, Yakuza 0 specifically, but also that the Yakuza franchise has mostly been about crime, drama, and mini games. So if you just want to mess around and play the equivalent of GTA or Grand Theft Auto games in Japan, you can. And then there's the question: since Yakuza 0 is the 0th entry in the story, the very first, the absolute beginning, are the other games in the series worth playing? And the answer is, I don't know, because I haven't played them. I might play them, but I've played other games, and I have other things that I intend to play. So my answer is maybe. Uh, so my overall thoughts on Yakuza 0: story's the most interesting part. Uh, if you want to be challenged in terms of the brawling combat, go ahead, put it on hard. For most people, normal is hard enough, and regardless of what difficulty you play it on, stock up on Stamina Royales. These are available. Just so you know, there are two. There are two cities. Majima gets his own city, and Kiryu gets his own city most of the time. So in each city, there is exactly one vendor that sells Stamina Royales. These give you the highest recovery for your special meter, also known as your heat, as well as your health. And yeah, you'll probably be healing your way through the more difficult fights. It's just whack, 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 and then just pause, heal yourself to your comfort level, and then proceed. In the final chapter, just expect to be rationing your Stamina Royales, because you have a gauntlet for each character to go through. So there. Best upgrades for each character, normally the health. Because there are three styles, three sets of health upgrades for each character, it made the game easier overall and possible for me without lots and lots of grinding. So, overall, thoughts on this game? Play it for the story, maybe play it for the mini games, maybe play it, at least in the short term, for the beat 'em up 3D combat. But you're primarily here for the story or the distractions, the mini games. So there you go. I do recommend using a controller. I played it on Xbox, an Xbox controller. Maybe a PlayStation controller is more comfortable for you. If so, go right ahead. So thank you, everyone. Good night. God bless.